And hello, welcome to another podcast from the Shealy Wellness Wellness Wednesdays. I am honored to have Dr. Shealy here with us. It's been a while since we've been on the program, right?
Thank you.
Good to have you. You're looking fantastic, Dad. Today is a very interesting program, and I'm very glad to have Dr. Shealy here because this is, in a way, it's a tribute to some of the accomplishments, but also the highlight, and just to kind of bring out what is it that we do, because people ask us all the time, what do we do? And I've actually had a hard time, frankly, just putting into a word or a paragraph or a sentence because there's so much that has been done. So many patents, so many books, so many activities, literally working on the entire holism spectrum. But would you say that the number one thing is uh, the concept of entrainment?
Entrainment, obviously. It's simple. Put people into trance. Train the brain. But interestingly, I just remembered the greatest era in thinking in 10 years.
Yes, sir.
I have not followed through a second year with all the things that determine life expectancy. So we've proven several ways that we can extend life, but we can't prove it a second year
Gotcha.
or a fifth year.
So a longer study, longer extended.
You don't have to do a lot of people.
Gotcha.
Just one person proves it exists.
See, that's the researcher's mind right there.
Right.
Wonderful. Speaking of, and let's just get back into where we are. So, speaking of entrainment, what are some of the ways, all the different ways that we talk about entrainment in the Shealy-Sorin wellness system, which started as a Shealy wellness, self-regulation, and literally working with a resetting, retraining, not just the brain but the body. So, if I were to start with a basic concept, everything that we do has to do with, in some way or form, with retrainment,
Indeed.
Optimization. Starting with, let's start with the device, PEMF. We had an interesting program last Wednesday, and Dr. Pollack mentioned one interesting concept on the program. We talked about various aspects of PEMF in very interesting presentation, and one of the things that he said struck me very interesting, and this is what made me think of the topic for this program, is that everything. This is Dr. Pollack's words, and if you listen to, I would welcome anyone to look over that last Wednesday program. One thing he said specifically is everything that Dr. Shealy has done has focused on entrainment, and I scratched my head and I said, you know what? That's exactly it. That's the one word that summarizes everything that Dr. Shealy has done. Now, it's more than just entrainment. It's a lot of different things, aspects. Holism is everything, system within subsystems. And then, of course, you've got the entire individual. So beyond the systems, spirit, soul, mind, body, holism. So it goes beyond and extends far, far from there. But to get started, the idea that we are a product of our genetics, but also environment. But more so, we are a product of our thoughts, feelings, emotions, patterns, and that, contrary to what society and culture like us to believe, the solutions are not external for the most part. The solutions are internal. And this is where the word entrainment comes in. Because if you can take any given situation, you can take addiction, you can take alcohol, you can take smoking, you can take overeating, you can take unhealthy lifestyle, whether it's nutrition, movement or lack of movement, stress solutions or lack of stress solutions. Bottom line is, you work with an individual, and you've done a fantastic job at this on many levels.
Essential common sense tells
Yes.
you to take care of yourself.
Wonderful. Simple, right?
Yeah. Now, anything that you do carries a risk, possibly, to your life and function. And so, in order to choose entrainment, you have to have good habits.
Let's start with the basics and the foundations. Nothing happens, folks. Nothing happens without the essentials and the foundation of lifestyle. We talk about all kinds of things. We talk about mental and emotional work. We're talking about the devices that optimize cellular regeneration, cellular level, also frequencies that work on the brain and literally on the body. And we'll talk about that in more detail, more depth. But nothing starts without the foundation of a healthy, good lifestyle. So, in a nutshell, how would
Yes.
you summarize essential lifestyle?
Well, in the morning, I start with 5 hours of exercise.
I think through the day you do more than that, but yeah,
No, actually, an hour and a half.
but yeah, then there's other activity continuing
Yes.
on. Yeah, so I don't think you ever sit. I don't think you stay very sedentary in general.
No, and,
Yeah.
and beyond that, I choose what I put into my mouth, as well as I choose what comes out of my mouth.
God, that's huge. That's huge, folks. And for the most part, speaking of nutrition, if you're not having adequate protein, which is at least, say, 1 gram per kilogram, so let's say if you're 100 pounds, make sure that about half of that, well, it's literally divided by 2.2 to be precise, but say half the body in pounds, more or less, is your protein intake. And then, of course, you got to make sure you got good veggies. And then there's the stuff to avoid, which is the toxins, the starches are generally, for the most part, poisoned. I mean, it's if you have to have something for a small amount, again, it's not going to kill you in the short term. In the long term, it probably will, right? But with glyphosate in the soil, with all sorts of stuff, pollutants in the air, and then of course you got electromagnetic 5G radiation. It's very difficult to do well without support for the physical vessel, which is the body. And so that's where we are. Plus, in addition to that, since we're talking about nutrition, I want to go from not just the macro, which is the proteins, carbs, and lipids. And the formula there is primarily veggies, lots of protein or plenty of protein, and stay away from things that are harmful, which is, in other words, breads, pastas, white rice, things of that nature. Even enriched is a false label. Uh, Enriched literally means they take stuff away and then they put a little bit back in, a little bit, not the whole thing.
It's a lie in general if it's on the bottom.
And of course, I know what you're going to say about the term organic.
Yes.
To a large degree. It's hard to be organic, fully organic, with all the pollution. I mean, you can do better, but it's hard to be perfect. It's hard to do really well with this. So supplements. Everyone needs an essential foundation of supplements in addition to the macros, and that includes. Let's talk about what everybody should be on. The essentials, so good B complex, youth formula, which is vitamin C, MSM, raises DHEA, anti-stress wellness hormone, by 60% in itself. Magnesium.
Magnesium is probably the most deficient in the average person.
About 80% generally.
Yes.
And this is healthy people.
And it can cause all kinds of problems, from an irregular heartbeat, or AFib, to death.
Exactly. And I came across in a clinical practice, several people have come to me and they told me that their doctors, their physicians, people wearing white coats with authority, right, told them that not to get vitamin D level to too high of a level because it can be harmful.
And in general, we've used it in a number of people, very, very high doses daily, and it makes your penis grow, but it doesn't harm your body in any other way.
You do want to watch calcium levels, because calcium and vitamin D, they are connected. But if you're taking general, not high levels, such as, for example, 50,000 units of vitamin D per week, or 5 to 10,000 per day, that is the basic essential. Plus minus, you also need vitamin K as well. And you can get a higher amounts in milligrams, not micrograms, and it's very hard to find. So we generally carry the things that we like, just because it's difficult to find good stuff out there. And most of the stores, pharmacies, when you look through the supplement aisle, my God, I'm not even going to go
Yuck.
there. Yuck. Yeah. I mean, some stuff is okay. I'm not saying it's all bad, but just be careful. Look, read the labels, folks. So now we talk about macros, but now, in addition to that, there's also the stress management and sleep. Sleep and the circadian cycle comes right into the stress management and the entire hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, plus the with the melatonin production by through the brain, and all of these things are very, very, very important, essential. People who don't sleep well, people who don't recover, people who don't have a good circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm literally means, I'm talking about the basics, and we're talking about entrainment, or training the body, training the body, training the mind, training the system to be at its optimal best. That's what we're talking about, folks. And the goal is, at the very least, to go from illness or disease to okay. From okay, you want to go to I'm good.
Excellent.
Excellent. That's where holistic medicine shines. Because conventional medicine can get you out of illness, so to speak, but it doesn't keep you out of illness. It's a repeating use model. In other words, go ahead and eat all the crap in the world and don't take care of yourself, and we'll see you again for another heart attack and another stent or angioplasty or cardiac surgery, so on and so forth, in another 6 months. Why not? It works for the disease model. It doesn't work for the patient. If you're the person who's going through this, why would you want to have another heart attack before you get better? Why would you want to feed the system? This is where entrainment comes in. Mental, emotional, stress solutions. One of the most amazing things that you've done is you've created this system called BIOGENICS with autogenic training, and that's literally resetting, retraining the brain and the nervous system, in combination with the frequencies that go with the recordings, and over 68 various exercises. Let's talk about the biogenics briefly, because people are familiar with that. But
Well, I started with autogenic training in 1972, and I got my PhD in psychology studying that and proving that it is essential. And I wrote a book called 90 Days to Self-Health, which is laicized version of my dissertation.
yeah, PhD thesis, yeah, back in the 70s.
Right.
Oh yeah. So what I love about the system is it's really training, resetting. And again, we're talking about entrainment. How do you entrain the body, the mind, and the spirit, so to speak? How do you become the best version of yourself from inside out? Not from outside in, from inside out. Here's one of the ways. Autogenic training. Let's actually do this briefly. So if you're sitting out there and you're not driving, obviously if you're doing something that requires your attention, or you're about to sign a legal document, please do whatever you got to do. But if you're at a place where you can take a deep breath, close your eyes safely, let's do this right now together. Shall we lead the folks through the brief version of autogenic training?
Well, it's very simple. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My heartbeat is calm and regular. My breathing is free and easy. My abdomen is warm. My forehead is cool. My mind is quiet and still. That starts entrainment.
Wonderful. And I just want to explain and talk about how it entrains, because there is a physiological basis behind every single word. One thing that I've learned about Dr. Shealy is he doesn't waste words. He doesn't waste anything. So when he says something, boom, there's a point there. My arms and legs, breathing out, are heavy and warm. How is that entrainment? Well, think of the vagal nervous system, vagus, parasympathetic. You have autonomic nervous system. Most people are dysregulated. Most people are in a constant fight and flight. What does it mean? Stress. How many people would admit or would basically say out loud that they're stressed? I can say it myself. Yeah. Actually, you don't have much stress. You've been working with this your whole life. Not that you don't have stress, you're handling it. Vagal nervous system. The opposite is the cold, clammy, and sweaty. When I worked emergency room, I've been doing it for 23 years. Uh, Actually, about 20 years, I should say. I was very almost proud of the fact that I would have on a regular basis cold, clammy hands. And I would even say stupid things. I can say that about myself, about circulation. Oh, my circulation is not good. Nonsense. I was a 30-year-old something emergency room physician. My circulation was fantastic. It's not a circulation. Stress, autonomic nervous system, sympathetic predominance. So my arms and legs are heavy and warm. If you can get your arms and legs to be nice and warm and heavy, almost like a blanket over you, on demand, not just by listening, on demand. That's why it's training. It's like driving. You at some point you learn how to drive, and then you start driving, and then somebody pulls out in front of you, you push the brake. Most people don't even bother about that. Some people are not very good drivers, but again, depends on what kind of training you got, right? So the training here is essential. The goal is internally to have that control, and it takes 2 to 3 months to do that. That's phrase number one. Phrase number two is my heartbeat is calm and regular. If you can become aware of what's happening in your heartbeat, if it's fast, let's say you're not in danger, but internally you're feeling a sense of something going on. Nervous, anxious, something in the environment, something legal, something personal, family members. Something's not okay. All around you, or maybe the world in general. My heartbeat is calm and regular. Again, training. Calm this down. You can prevent panic attacks. You can literally save yourself from having effects of stress right there before it starts. When it starts, it's already too late. There's going to be an outcome. My breathing is free and easy. By controlling the breathing, you can literally control the pH of the blood. You can control the exchange of CO2, in other words, the gases and everything else. Enzymes, things that do work in the body, proteins that create structure and function for the things that we need. They need optimal pH. So again, biofeedback. My next phrase, my abdomen is warm. Why is that important? Greatest chemical factory in the world. What about the gut-brain connection? What about the gut-hormone connection? Essential. What about the gut and the autonomic nervous system, immune system? The gut is literally at the center of the whole thing. And one of the things that I specialize in specifically is gut, GI, and how the whole system, systemically, system within subsystems affects everything else. You want to get a head start without having just to spend any money or buy any resources or anything out there. Start working on biofeedback. Simple, right? What do you need? Your brain. That's it. And last but not least, I shouldn't say two more. My forehead is cool. The opposite is hot-headed. The better option is cool-headed. I'm okay. God bless. God bless. And last but not least, my ever-conscious mind is quiet and still. Now, how many people get to the place where you can get your mind on demand to be quiet and still? I know you can.
Absolutely. My favorite word is detach. If it can't be solved any other way, let it go. Don't play broken records.
Otherwise, we're wasting energy, and we are wasting effort on something that's beyond our control. And that's the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, and ruining the body, the mind, and the physiology at the same time. Because what happens is, and I want to go into the physiology aspect, once you activate the stress cascade, stress response, now you're on the way, and you do it on a regular basis, constant. Now you're burning up your DHEA, you're burning out your defenses. And then at some point, you have stage one of stress, of gas, general adaptation syndrome. Dr. Cellier did a fantastic work, and that was part of your thesis, PhD thesis.
Yes.
The idea is this. Initially, cortisol goes up, DHEA goes up to adapt, and then you relax. Now, if you keep it up for too long, most people are there, you get into stage 2. Cortisol is still up. You're still able to respond to emergencies and stress. Cortisol is important. It's not the enemy, but you don't want it to be uncontrolled. But now DHEA is now starts going down because you're burning up your resources. And if I'm not saying something that's not right, please correct me. So now that's stage 2. Now that's decompensation, but you're still functioning. Stage 3, you're out. You're done. No more cortisol, no more DHEA. You could literally be standing in the middle of a street with a bus going at you, and you'll say, "I got no energy. I got nothing." I mean, that's literally the stage 3.
Burned out.
Burnout, exactly. And that's what happens. And when people are burned out, guess what? You're not taking care of yourself. You're not making the effort. You're not making the energy. And if you don't make the effort, you don't take care of the system, of the vessel, of the body, of the mind, guess what? Downhill spiral. That's where I see a lot of my folks. So that's working on mental and emotional. And of course, there's over 68 various exercises in BIOGENICS series, from physical biofeedback, mental and emotional. One of my favorites is literally honoring my body. And we actually created this together based on the system. And the idea is the body, the human body, is a wonderful, miraculous, amazing organism. It's one of the most amazing creations of literally one of the most amazing physical creations. But it's controlled by the mind. So you can start with a great body, but if the mind is not doing the right things, going in the wrong direction, how long does it take for the body to get ruined? Pretty fast, right?
Right.
An analogy would be, I like nice vehicles. In other words, like let's say you have a Porsche or something that's nice. Manufacturer created a great vehicle. In other words, it runs well, it requires certain fluids if you do it right, but if you don't take care of it, if you, let's say, ignore it, don't put in the fuel, don't put in the right fluids, don't do the maintenance, and do all the things that you're not supposed to. In other words, abuse the vehicle. How long is that beautiful vehicle going to last? Not long. So that is the concept behind entrainment, optimization. Another layer, and go ahead, please, and I want to jump into...
Well, that's why the average person dies at 78 years of age. Because they have a crappy lifestyle.
Well said. Well said. Now, most people will hate hearing this. Shouldn't say will hate hearing this, but I think it's important to understand. We have come to expect in our society that it's okay to get old and to get sick. It's okay to die from 50 to 70. It's okay to have chronic health complications from the age of 30 on. If I see somebody in the emergency room, and I still work at ER, and 30 plus, and they don't have any listed medical conditions, the nursing and myself go scratch our heads in general because, okay, what didn't we get? Because everyone has chronic medical illness. Everyone. That's what the expectation is. Even 20-year-olds, kids. I'm seeing actually chronic disease in children, up to 50% in the ER.
Oh, yes.
Between allergies and between lots more serious things. Brain functions, ADHD, learning disorders, disabilities. I know society is toxic, but you know what? 50%? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, interestingly, I grew up in a society, fortunately, where next door to me were living 90-year-olds. And I grew to respect that.
So you grew up with the idea that getting old doesn't mean getting sick.
No, not at all. I grew up in a family which actually trained me to be a physician at age 4 because of family friends who were physicians. I chose that life.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And Dr. Shealy, you've been leading an exemplified life by your personal example, what's your definition of aging? How do you see yourself aging through? I know you've been through some hard times lately, but you're past the hump now.
I feel healthy. I feel as if I'm going to live another 30 or more years.
Now, that would be wonderful because the original concept that we talked about was that you were going to go for 140 to 150. We were going to demonstrate that, right?
Right.
Because I'm going to do the same, but I got a whole bunch of years before I get there.
Yes.
So before I can prove it, you can prove it. And this is going to be a case study. But we're going to start with at least 120, right? Is that what we said?
And actually, in retrospect, looking at all the things that are created, the bliss oils extend life. And I, it takes a minute or two a day to raise your DHEA, raise the important chemicals, and
Yeah.
you keeping on.
I was gonna say, this last Wednesday literally changed my perception and understanding on the spot, which is why we're talking about this topic today, entrainment. But even bliss oils, which is literally acupuncture points activated by certain combinations of essential oils, and
It saves pain. It saves putting needles into the body. And it does it with a drop, a touch, 12 or so points.
Each ring, 5 rings.
Yeah.
What I've realized since then is that this is also entrainment in
Yes.
a certain way, and it falls into that category. It didn't occur to me, but this is literally entraining the energetic system of the body, because that's what the reset is about. And this explains, again, I knew that this was a factor. Some people can take up to several weeks to feel the effects of the oil, and some
yes.
people are immediate. But that's why, that's again back to the concept of resetting, retraining the body on a cellular level, energetic level, and all of those various aspects. Would you agree with that statement? The entrainment of the
Absolutely.
See, because this occurred to me, and I just wanted to share this with you and with the audience, because literally what we're doing is one single word: entrainment. There's another entrainment mechanism that is very powerful, which is actually two of them. And we can go to let's talk about the glasses, the Relax Mates. At some point, you created a audiovisual AVE, audio visual entrainment, and we've long had the sound, the frequencies to support the delta through beta, which is the brainwave states, how the brain communicates in an optimal way from relaxation to focus. And then there's gamma. Gamma is very interesting in that it's the optimal brain, and we've shown that to be helpful with addiction, over 90+% success, where normally 17% in the best of the addiction centers. And we're talking about opioids, difficult stuff. This was a study for several years, and it's still going strong. The idea of having a device such as PEMF, and Dr. Pollack did an interesting, very good job talking about the general concept of PEMFs last week. He mentioned something to me about the Shealy-Sorin PEMF device. And what he said was that, and this literally sunk in, and I had to really think about it, so that this is about a week of brewing on this, and this is wonderful. I want to say thank you to Dr. Pollack for literally seeing the big picture, is that not only is there a PEMF device with the PEMF aspects of it, but there's frequencies that are embedded and entrained. And this is part of the training. This is where we're coming in with that. Brilliant. This is what it's all about. It's not just the PEMF aspect, it's the entrainment aspect. And I haven't been talking about that. So this is important to bring up. What are the entrainments that we're working with? In the first mode, the sweep mode, it's a Schumann frequency, 7.83 hertz or cycles per second, plus minus 2 times up to 7. Why? There are 7 energy centers in the body. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, it's exquisitely important because we are related to everything on the Earth. And the Earth frequency is 7.83 plus or minus 2. And so it's critical to live within those frequencies.
And the research in the 50s, 40s and 50s that I came across about the Schumann frequency when it first got discovered, and well, it existed a long time before, but again, science is catching up very, very, very slowly. Our concept of science is behind by about several hundred years, I think, compared to where the ancients have been. But that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to take a step back in order to move forward. The idea of having support for Schumann frequency in the body, and there's studies with students as well as NASA, in other words, the space stations, support for the physical body, for the mental, for the emotional. It's essential. And people who are not out, let's say, in nature, such as lumberjacks or gardeners, or people who are in nature for the most part, are missing that. We are Most of us live in concrete jungles. We are bombarded by other forms of electromagnetic harmful aspects. So without proper support for the body, entrainment for the cells, did I say it right?
Yes.
It's literally entrainment. That's why it does take time. And Dr. Pollack said something, that it may take a longer time for the entrainment to take place, which is absolutely very true. But it's worth training your system. It's worth training the brain, because you don't want to have to rely on the outside external sources. Even if it's a PEMF, you don't want to have to do this for the rest of your life. The idea is coming from us. And this is what I keep saying to everybody, and this is counter to the financial benefit of the model. But I don't want people coming to us forever and ever on a chronic basis. I don't want that. We're too busy for that, first of all, number one. I mean, the clinic is now, the appointments are now into March or April, and there's plenty of other holistic people around. But the idea is you shouldn't ultimately need anyone outside of yourself, other than a resource and somebody to talk to about when things are not doing as well. In other words, what needs to be changed, what needs to be adjusted. My goal for every single person is very simple. I want you to be self-reliant. I want you to be okay. I want you to be in a place where you know that whatever life brings your way, you're good.
At peace.
At peace. Exactly. And so that is a very powerful thing, to entrain, or to basically to work with the body's internal wisdom, working inside out, not necessarily outside in, inside out. And that's this way. Whether it rain or shine or whatever political or social or supply demand situation, you know that you will be better off than otherwise. You will be okay for the most part. Second mode is also very important, gamma mode. And gamma is entrainment for the literally optimal brain function. Let's talk about gamma.
Well, it was first discovered in Buddhist monks who meditate 8 hours a day. And that's good for almost anyone, but it's essential to detach from things that you cannot change.
How many people in your clinical practice of 6-7 decades, I think 7 decades, right? Yeah. How many people are able to detach completely and to be in a place?
Very few. Very few.
Very few. Yeah. I know several who have extreme self-control. In other words, they can literally turn things on, turn things off, be okay, go through a hard situation, and then I'm good. Not many people can do that.
I've done this at least since 1972.
Wonderful. So gamma is the key to optimization. It's not just for illness. It's not just for mental health. It's not just for addiction. It's for optimization, literally. If you want to do better in school, in education, in work, in corporate, if you have your own business, stressors, all sorts of stuff, gamma is fantastic entrainment. And that's something you can actually learn. The idea is to use the device up to 24/7, just like the TENS unit. TENS unit is another concept of entrainment, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
But I don't want to jump over yet. I was still talking about PEMF, but I'll come back to the TENS unit. Third aspect of the PEMF device, that the Shealy-Sorin unit PEMF, is delta, 0 to 3 cycles per second, and that entrains, that tells people, allows the brain to go into stage 3 deep sleep and deep relaxation. I also advise that for nerve pain and overactive nervous system. Anything else you'd like to say on that?
The important thing is to detach.
Okay.
Play no broken records.
And that means if you can't control the pain, if it's chronic pain, and I'll be frank, after my multiple events and adventures in life. I do have back surgery, I have fusion, so it's not infrequent that I experience sensations in my body. It doesn't stop me from pursuing. I'm now on brown belt in the Goju martial arts system. I can do everything that I want to do. I mean, obviously the high kicks are kind of out for now, but I wouldn't do them anyway properly. Never have been. So I am okay with where I am, and I'm able to do pretty much what I need to do. But there's still sensations. Now, a lot of people have chronic pain, and it stops them. It literally stops them in their tracks. Now, what I want to say is this is where you can reset, retrain the entire organism. So now let's kind of move into the TENS unit and the concept of the TENS unit, which kind of started the whole concept back in, when was that? Back in how many decades?
Oh my, 1950s.
50, yes, that's right. Sorry.
In the late 50s.
Late 50s, correct. And then shortly within that time period around there was also dorsal cord stimulator,
Right.
which is another resetting retrainment system. So, Dr. Shealy, I'm going to say you've been doing entrainment for the body ever since you started your career.
Yes.
So that seems to be a major theme. And the idea behind the TENS unit, and let's talk about the TENS unit, the way it's properly supposed to work, because I had several consultations with clients about that. You don't use it for 15 minutes and then turn it off. That's not how it's supposed to work. Let's talk about how it was designed, please. You designed the TENS unit, if I'm not mistaken, with the concept of rewiring, resetting the gate theory of pain, so to speak. In other words, there are painful fibers and there are fibers for sensation. So you can actually, with a TENS unit, if you keep it on for 24/7 or as much as possible, over at least several weeks to maybe a month, you can change the nature of the pain signal into a sensation signal. Now, I'm doing this with my mind. In other words, I'm recognizing the sensation. I'm perceiving it in different fashions, so it doesn't stop me. It doesn't limit me. I'm still aware of it. But for folks that are having unpleasant, continuous, persistent symptoms between biogenics, between the TENS unit, between the PEMF, which is wonderful for pain and all sorts of biological, physical functions. So that's another aspect of resetting and retraining, isn't it?
Absolutely. Critically important.
Is there anything in our system, in the system that you've designed and we've actually put together, that is not based on entrainment?
No.
Okay.
I think.
So we could say not only that you're the founding father of holistic medicine, but you could say that you're the founding father of training the mind, the body, the nervous system. And there's many ways. And the person... Detaching, that's a big one. And the key is that a person is a multifactorial, multi-layer being. We're not just a physical body. We're not just a brain. We're not just our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. We are a spirit. We are a soul. This comes back to one of the biogenic exercises that is one of my favorites. I have a physical body. It's one of the most incredible creations, vessels, temples in the service of the higher being, higher purpose. We're here on a purpose, folks. We're not just here to suffer and to do stupid things. We're here on a purpose, folks. And as long as we realize that God doesn't make junk, I can say that easily because that's what I know. God doesn't make junk. And so if you want to be your very best, reset, retrain, and get to the place that you are okay no matter what life throws at you. Self-regulation, self-control on a cellular level, on an energetic level, and on a mental emotional level, as well as on a physical and electromagnetic levels. I would say the whole system is basically a complete set of retraining and self-regulation.
Absolutely.
But a person doesn't have to start with everything all at once. What would you say if you're encountering somebody for the first time, and let's say, and they haven't done anything on wellness? They're standard eating a standard American diet, said they're having standard stress, chronic illnesses, lots of bad stuff. Where would you start?
Origin training. Always origin training. Once you master that, you can handle anything.
Wonderful. And there's a program called BIOGENICS. Now, we used to do this the pandemic. So
Right.
from 2019, something wonderful has happened. Something terrible has happened, but something wonderful has happened. There's always an opportunity in a crisis. And some people like to explore those crises for their personal gain. In this case, the opportunity for a crisis here is that we can see what's happening in the world. We can see how important it is to be self-sufficient, because now we're seeing what the world really is. And I'm going to small digress. We talked about a matrix on one of the radio programs earlier. The matrix be defined as societal construct on health, on wellness, on relationships, on who we think we are, on everything, on every aspect of us, from the spiritual to mental to emotional to physical. And the problem is the culture, society, school, education, everything around us is teaching us, literally teaching us and shoving us into the societal standards. Societal standards are substandard. You've got all sorts of problems, which is why the sick society, and which is why, and I'll say this about a million more times, people die young, from their 50s generally to their 70s, sometimes younger, with lots of medical diseases, comorbidities, and frequently depression, anxiety, and not enjoying life. And Dr. Shealy, to me, if I'm going to be alive, if I'm going to be out here, I want to enjoy life. I want not just to exist. I want to be present.
And again, at peace.
At peace.
If I cannot change it, I detach from it. I don't watch the news. I don't need the news. Now, I don't need anything outside of myself.
That is the most powerful statement in the world. Now, not to say that we don't need nutrients, we don't need company, we don't need love,
Right.
we don't need companions. But let's say, Dr. Shealy, for whatever reason, you were in a self-contained unit, for example, for whatever reason, by yourself, with yourself. I think you would be okay until further notice. Not that that's going to happen, of course. But most people, a lot of folks, when they are left to their own devices,
play broken records.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Resetting, retraining, and entrainment. That's what it's all about. And I do. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Again, if you cannot change it, detach.
Let go. Exactly. There is we do have an opportunity to for all the content that we're talking about. There's a coupon. It's for Valentine's Day. That was yesterday, but there's a 15% off everything in the store, and the coupon code is Love 2023. Love 2023 for anything that's over $100 in orders, and this includes biogenics. This includes courses. This includes supplements. It includes PEMF, frequency and vibration support and entrainment, but all the various products, the bliss oils and everything else. Now, you don't have to start with everything, but start with something. And if you're going to start with something, for example, for those who don't have much resources, I would certainly start with biogenics course and autogenic training.
Yes.
That's free. That's it's very inexpensive. The program was $8,000. Now it's less than 50, I think, or so it was. Why? Because we want people to have it. Because the society, the culture, the world is falling apart, and we're not okay with this. We are holistic physicians, and this is not something that we can tolerate. Not if we can help it. So, at the very least, biogenics, folks, biogenics. And autogenic training, 2 to 3 months until you have mastery. And I call it a black belt technique. In other words, I am on my way to a brown belt in the Goju system. It's a martial arts, a Japanese style. Now, at some point, there comes a black belt. And the idea is in the martial arts, as well as in driving, in any skill, any profession where you get really good, but let's talk about martial arts. Black belt, first degree black belt, doesn't mean that you're the master of the universe. It just means that you have certain patterns down cold. You can wake up in the middle of the night and you can do a flow. You can do a pattern. You can do a kata movement. You can also literally utilize your reflexes that you've developed and subconscious activity to respond to any situation. And that's what we're talking about. The capacity to respond, responsibility, ability to be powerful in your own life. Would you agree?
Detach.
So, start with that. Lifestyle doesn't cost you a single thing. Nutrition, movement, sleep, rest. Get those patterns right. Stress management. Back to autogenic training, biogenics. Now, if you want to go above and beyond that, supplements. Basic and essential supplements, essentials, youth formula, daily. You wouldn't leave a nice car without fuel, right? I mean, it's you wouldn't leave a nice car without oil changes. You need this. Your body, your physical body needs it. You're more than your physical body. As long as you have a physical body, take care of it. And then, of course, I would say very important, if you can, and you're in position, look into the PEMF unit with the entrainment potential for the brain, for the rest, for the sleep, for the Schumann frequency, and for the gamma and for the delta. Now, there's, of course, other devices out there. There's various aspects, but the entrainment is what I consider to be the most important thing in the world. And we've seen it in action. We have a lot of success stories. And I'm just going to say there's a good phrase from Nike, which is goes something like this. Not that it's the only shoe company, but just do it. And that is the key. Whatever it is, just do it. Anything else you'd like to add?
Be at peace.
And yes, sir. Now, there is a couple of things that I'd like to mention about our sponsors and supporters here. And there's a wonderful place. It's called Spring Valley. Wonderful store. Lots of good products. They carry Dr. Shealy's Essentials, Youth Formula, Magnesium, which raises DHEA. That's another one of the essentials. Bliss oils, all the 5 bliss oils, but also lots of other goodies and lots of other things. And service is fantastic.
Yes, you don't have to search. Somebody comes to help you find it.
And especially in this world where supplements and the entire industry is so complicated, everything's complicated. And I think it's actually on purpose.
Yes.
I think things should be simple. If it's not simple, simplify it. Or find somebody who can help you simplify it. And last but not least, I do want to talk about another wonderful product that if you're not getting your veggies in, well, tart cherry juice concentrate. And it's one of the best sources of antioxidants, nutrients, and it's great for cholesterol, great for blood pressure, great for many, many different things. How much do you take in terms of 1 teaspoon or 2?
Two tablespoons.
Oh, tablespoons, excuse me. Yeah. Actually, I got to catch up. But tastes good. And not everybody likes the taste, but it's so good for you. But give it a go, especially if your veggies are not sufficient. Well, build up those veggies, but this is also going to help. And let me see if we have any questions or if we have any thoughts. And of course, we're happy to continue talking on a number of topics. Okay. Question. I had radiation therapy on my scalp. How long would you recommend PEMF on the scalp each day to possibly activate hair follicles?
Actually, I would wait at least a month after it.
After the radiation?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then daily.
Radiation is an interesting concept. Radiation will destroy harmful things, but it can also destroy youthful tissue. And the tissue that reproduces the fastest, the most among it is gut, hair, and several other things. Most people need to get a haircut once a month or so. So that means the hair is growing. Now, with radiation, you can have some damage that goes beyond the temporary. It's possible, depending on the amount of radiation. So I don't want to say that it's going to be a 100% solution, but I think Dr. Shealy is right. Give it a little time after the radiation and then start as much as 24/7. And would you say the sweep mode would probably be best?
Yes.
Yeah, the
definitely.
sweep mode. the Schumann frequency mode to help stimulate.
Yeah.
There's also other things that can be considered, and I would also look into nutrition, make sure good B6, and lots of other essential basics. And of course, there's beyond the basics. So I hope we addressed that proper. Let's see. There was also another question here. Can we talk about grounding? I would love to talk about grounding. The original concept of a term tree hugger, actually, and some people use it in a very negative terms. Is it was literally about grounding, and originally the people who were hugging the trees were basically protecting them from destruction. But the idea and the concept is that the tree, the ground, the garden, the earth. And I'm not talking about wearing shoes or leather or anything else, literally barefoot in the ground, or sorry, on the ground, I should say, not in the ground. And just literally feeling the earth, being one with. Most people will find themselves in a much better place mentally, emotionally, physically, decreased inflammation. The earth is our base, it's our ground, it's our foundation. Without the earth, talking about the Schumann frequency as well, but the earth is the ultimate in providing that and in making sure. So grounding is very, very important. Now, for those who are having a hard time or it's difficult to get out there and ground yourself, in other words, it's you live in an inner city, or you're around, or you don't have the opportunity, you don't have the time, or you don't have, for whatever reason. There's also grounding devices,
right,
as well. And what are some of the grounding devices that you've come across?
I can't think.
Yeah. One of the things that you told me about, and I know brains are wonderful when they work, is there's actually a grounding sheets or a material that you can purchase.
Yes.
It can be various materials, but the idea is it provides contact for your body that is kind of or supportive in the capacity that Earth would be supportive. Now, I don't think it's the same thing, but it's better than the alternative.
Right.
So very, very important. The other thing about grounding is to make sure that the grounding takes place not just on a physical level, mental and emotional. No matter what the situation is, no matter where you are, no matter what's happening, make sure you ground yourself. One of the ways to do that, meditation, awareness, biogenics, autogenic training, one of the most powerful aspects. Now, there's others, of course, but this is a system that works very, very, very well. Let's see if there's any other questions. I think we're good for now. Now, Dr. Shealy, it's been a while since you've been on the program. How you been?
Great. I'm fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any other words of wisdom or anything else that you'd like to say to the folks?
Well, again, I had this awareness that I've proven you can lengthen your life, but only 1 year at a time. And so I'm going to study it multiple years to see if it's cumulative.
I love it. One thing I love about Dr. Shealy is, well, as wonderful as you are as a clinician, my God, your research interests and your direction and drive to bring new things to the world, knowledge foundation, has been absolutely insatiable. I jokingly say that you've lived a life of about 5 to 10 people, lifetimes, and I wouldn't be overstating that.
I just do what occurs to me to do.
And it is an honor, it is a pleasure, and it is an absolute delight to be able to bring you this, a new format on the classic. And the classic is Dr. Shealy's work on entrainment, self-regulation, physical, mental, emotional, biochemical, supplements, back to the essential lifestyle. The bottom line is the complete package of who the person is. And you do that, people say chronic illness, disease, inevitable decline, degeneration. I disagree. That does not have to be the case. And let me see if there's any more questions or thoughts. Okay, so let's see. Battery life of PEMF. Okay, excellent. The battery life of PEMF is anywhere from 6 to 8 hours once it's unplugged from the charge. In gamma mode, I think it's a little less, in my experience, 6 to 7 hours. That's what I found. That's because it takes a little bit more higher power output. And that's what makes gamma effective. But it does shorten the battery life. The other modes are up to 8 hours. And actually, one time I went up to 10, but I mean, I wouldn't call it, every single day. Short of it, the idea is charge the unit at night, keep it under the pillow, let's say delta, or let's say if you want to ground yourself. Another way of grounding, as a matter of fact, is, and this is what I do, especially when I got too much stuff going on, too much excitement, brain is going overboard. It happens with type A personalities. I literally put the device on the grounding, on the sweep mode, and I feel myself at peace. Now, then again, it's also an in-train response, but if you don't start training, how do you get there? Now, by the way, it's called earthing mats or grounding mats, by the way, and you can get those as well. And as a matter of fact, I have one laying around the house somewhere.
Yeah.
But that reminds me, I need to get one on. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, can you speak about how to treat pulsating tinnitus, the ringing in the ear? Now, there is a couple of ways, but please.
Interestingly, I have a brief experience with
Ringing
in ears.
Yeah.
I totally lost it. Fortunately, bringing it under control. I used
was it
autogenic training?
Autogenic training, but also which is retraining, which is
Right.
wonderful. But also was it several of the bliss oils as well?
Yes.
I believe it was. What was your experience on the tinnitus? Fire and air.
Yeah. Fire and air.
So the combination of those two, and I believe the possible mechanism there, I'm going to say possible mechanism because it needs more attention and more research, is fire stabilizes the endocrine system, and well, including the brain. And the air stabilizes neurotensin and oxytocin, which are among other neurochemicals. And one thing about the brain, I love the brain. I love the biochemistry. I was one of the very strange people who loved biochemistry going through medical school. So go figure. But the idea here is that you change the biochemistry, you change the brain function and brain structure, and that's called neuroplasticity. The way it happens is training. There's only one way. Let's see if there's any other thoughts. Let's see. Okay. Can autogenic training help the heart and lungs and organs?
Every organ in the body.
Thank you. Now, let's talk about how that is in the mechanism, because autogenic training, it's biofeedback. You're talking about autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system means everything in balance. Stress versus relaxation. There's other ways to look at the body. But if you can get an organ relaxed, if you can get the vascular system to relax, these are all things that are under our control. Elmer Green, you've known Elmer Green ever since he started the work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. Elmer Green is said to be the founding father of biofeedback.
Definitely.
But you've actually worked with him and on these things even before, as a friend, even before he started this. And this is a big part of biogenics and autogenic training. This is what we're doing, folks. You can literally reset the blood flow to the internal organs. Now, I'm going to say this very carefully. We're not supposed to say we cure or heal or treat anything per se, because again, we're talking about wellness general devices. Keyword: wellness general devices. Hello to our friends at FDA. Wellness general device may help, may assist, but this is our foundation. This is what uh, our experience is. Fantastic results, even in diabetes, blood pressure, sugar, all kinds of metabolic functions. And why does it work potentially? Potentially. Well, when you work with the vascular system, when you're working with metabolism, when you're working with resetting the autonomic nervous system, that stress response cascade, and the entire hormonal system, because the entire thing is interconnected. Of course, the brain and the gut is interconnected. Folks, we're talking everything, system within system within system. There's no organ that you shouldn't be able to touch through the power of your mind, biofeedback. We have that much power. We have that much power. And then supported together with electromagnetic modalities such as EMF, essential supplements, and you may need more than that, and lifestyle. Lifestyle. Start with the basics. You will do very, very well. And most important of all, make sure you follow the system. Now, there is also I also have, interestingly, a variety of patients and clients who have done everything, as they say, various system, various things, and they just kind of jumble everything in. Now, that can work. Good things from various systems are okay, but just like in martial arts, and I keep getting reminded because I've done martial arts my whole life. So when I'm doing a karate system, I don't want to be practicing wrestling at the same time. In other words, choose a system, follow a system. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to use wrestling or I don't enjoy wrestling. Well, with my broken back, I don't do that as much. But it's the idea is you use the resources, but learn the system for what it is. And then once you have a system, you can apply it, or you can say, okay, something else is more applicable here. But you have the option. That's the power. That is the power. Let's see what else. Okay, question. How do you make an appointment and how do you get more information? The clinic we do have a bit of a backlog. In other words, or I should say, my visits are now up to April, which is, again, it's a terrible thing, but again, I'm honored. I could always, potentially squeeze somebody in if it's an emergency, but it's getting pretty tight. Telephone number is 417-351-5221. Telephone, video, and in-person visits. We are in Springfield, Missouri. But interestingly enough, and you've had this as well, a lot of my clients, about at least a quarter, are from other countries.
Oh, yeah.
Europe, some Latin America, Asia, all sorts of places, and telephone and otherwise consultations. Canada, quite a bit of folks from there. Interesting about the healthcare system there is not very good, apparently. Well, good for some things, maybe not for everything. But the idea is, if you have a question, please get in touch with us and get a good initial consultation, and then from there we'll see what we need to do. 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. realholisticdoc.com. If you think that you could benefit from a holistic evaluation with a real holistic doc, as taught by Dr. Shealy himself, the original real holistic doc, which is where we are, the name of the company, call us, and we're happy to talk to you. Also, if there's any questions that we can address off the top, quick, simple things, we'll be happy to do so. But things that are more involved, generally, it's best to have an appointment. Another thing is the website and the resources and information, and you can find a lot of different things. The website is realholisticdoc.com, and I'll ask our people to put a link so that we can see where it is. And you can have access to free information, resources, and if you feel that you could use something that you want to ask or talk about, then we're available. From the store to the clinic and otherwise. The idea is health, wellness, and life optimization. That's what it's all about, folks. And last but not least, I don't want to say once again, so to get the benefit of the system, you have to start with the system. You have to do something with this. It's nice to hear it on the podcast and to say, hey, this is an interesting concept, but it's going to do absolutely nothing. Zip, zero for you if you just if you do nothing with it. It's literally an cause and outcome. In other words, or you do something, you get an outcome. You don't do something, you don't get it. Nothing happens, so to speak. So let's get to doing good things and check us out. Give us your feedback. Leave us your questions. We're gonna have another radio, or I should keep saying radio because we've been on the radio for how many podcasts, right? Podcasts. We're gonna have one the following Wednesday. I'll see if I can potentially come in. I'll be traveling next week. I'll be visiting family, so I may not be here. I'll double check on the dates. But if I'm not here, then Dr. Shealy hopefully will be here.
Of course.
And perhaps one of our amazing people, such as Rachel, or who has been doing a fantastic job on her own. She actually did a program entirely on her own, and I loved it. I loved it. She did fantastic. We'll have more of that. So we'll continue working on different things. Thank you so much for your presence. And if you find that this is helpful or this is good information, please share with others and stay tuned. This is all about you. This is all about holism. This is all about the human being, spirit, soul, mind, body, and it's about resetting, retraining, and reestablishing who we are from the conventional society matrix standards, which are substandard. It's time to get back. It's time to get back our humanity. It's time to get back our potential, our health, our wellness, and our peace. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next time.